Hello there everybody, and welcome to our very first music video Makeup Monday of 2022. I know, it's been a hot minute. Holidays were crazy, you know, beginning of the year was a little much, but we're back and ready to rock. You feel me? The next two episodes that we have are gonna be so much fun. We have another one coming out on Friday, and then we have this one today, and I am just excited for the next two. Yay! Today, as you can tell by the thumbnail, we are going to be talking about Alice Cooper. Ooh. We're gonna be talking all about Alice Cooper, how Alice Cooper was created, a little bit about the band, about the group, about the song School's Out. That's going to be our primary topic of discussion today while we recreate his iconic look. This is something that was requested by one of you guys, and I looked into it and I was like, I'm down with it. Let's rock. So without further ado, let's go ahead and get started with this. The first step, as always, is going to be making sure you're moisturized. Always important. And then putting a face primer. Since, looking at his pictures, I don't really think he puts on foundation. I want to because I got some acne kind of coming in on the chin. So I'm going to put a first base of makeup for myself and then focus on the eyes, obviously. But it's up to your discretion. If you don't want to put face makeup on underneath, I would still suggest putting a primer on to make sure that everything sticks to your face if you don't want to put foundation. So just kind of depends on who you are. Same thing with the eyes, you're probably going to want a eye primer. Anyways, let's go ahead and get started. I'm going to start with my face and let's talk about Alice Cooper. So Alice Cooper was essentially created by the main head man, whose name was actually Vincent Damon Furnier. Hopefully I'm saying his last name correct, but his name is Vincent. And I was never a crazy big Alice Cooper fan growing up. I liked School's Out, that was my jam, but I didn't know too much about them. And so I honestly thought that his name was Alice Cooper. And so when I found this out, I was like, wow, you are so dumb. But here we are. His name was Vincent. He was born in Detroit, Michigan. He was born there, and it was said that early in his life he did have a few hiccups that did start pretty early on that caused some stuff, you know. He was said to have gotten appendicitis when he was pretty young, and it was a pretty impactful thing for him because it really affected him. The appendicitis grew from not only appendicitis, but it changed into something called peritonitis. Hopefully I'm saying it right. And it's something that you can die from if it kind of escalates to that point. And he got pretty close to it. He went in for surgery, and when he went in for surgery, he was kind of given a 50-50 chance of survival. So a lot of his friends, family, you know, they just kind of were like hoping for the best, but they were really unsure of his condition. As we all know, he did end up pulling through. He was okay, and did have a month-and-a-half stint in the hospital. Doing these little research studies, I do find it interesting. I mean, everyone has a story, and everyone tends to think that, hey, my life is just so bad, I can never get over these hurdles, but a lot of these people have a lot of early on things that just kind of shape who it is that they become. The last one that we did that does come to mind is David Bowie, you know, getting hit in the eye by a friend, you know, getting punched in the eye by a friend and being in the hospital for quite a long time. So yeah, he was in the hospital and he had several months of recovery. It was not by any means an immediate recovery, but he did recover nonetheless, as we can tell. His family decided to move shortly after that to Arizona, Phoenix specifically, which is so hot. Oh my goodness, every time I go, it's a pretty hot place, except for the winter. The winter's not too bad. But anyways, he went to Phoenix, Arizona, and he attended Cortez High School. And in Cortez High School, that is really where he met a lot of his buddies that ended up being his bandmates. In school, one of his goals that he put in his yearbook, and every time I see this type of stuff, I definitely am like, dang. In his yearbook, he said that he wanted to be a million record seller. So He had a lot of ambition, he had a lot of drive from a young age, and it's always super rad when you see these kids say this stuff, you know, so innocently. And then they go on and do it. Vincent was in track and field, and when he was 16 years old, there was a talent show at the high school, and that was essentially the start of the band and his music. He decided to kind of wrangle up a few of his friends from cross country and be in the talent show. His fellow cross country teammates were Glenn Buxton, Dennis Dunaway, John Tatum, John Spear, and all of them together, they named themselves the Earwings. For the show, they decided to dress up, and they wanted to wear wigs and costumes and resemble the Beatles, and they performed Beatles songs, which they changed the words to and kind of made it into a parody. As one may or may not assume, this gave them a standing ovation and just the drive they needed to make it an actual thing. After the show, they decided to go to a local pawn shop, and at the pawn shop, they decided to purchase their instruments officially. And they started learning how to play as a band. It was a little bit unclear if they just performed the songs and had like a tape playing in the background, or if they had instruments when they played at this talent show. I have no idea, but nonetheless, after that talent show was when everything kind of started, and they were like, we don't do this. As a band, they decided to rename themselves after making themselves fairly official into the Spiders, with Vincent being the lead singer. In 1966, they graduated high school, and they had an original composition that was kind of #1 in their little like neighborhood group. I don't know if it was like on the radio. I don't know how they kind of made that happen as kids, but they had a little #1 in 1966 called Don't Blow Your Mind. And then after that song, they had another song that came out that was called No Price Tag that also did fairly well locally. As I said, they did graduate in 1966, and in 1967, they started to kind of just, you know, be a little bit more official with it. And they started going back and forth and taking regular road trips from Phoenix to LA and back and forth. And honestly, it's not that long of a drive. It's maybe a 5 to 7 hour drive. So they would come pretty frequently to LA and be like, we gonna make it. So I basically finished doing just my face. This is like Gen 1, a little bit of blush, a little bit of contour, fairly simple. Sorry, I'm looking at my mirror. Fairly simple look. This is, you know, you can do whatever base as a female as you would want on the bottom. And then from here, we would do the eyes. If you are a male, like I said, and don't want to put on all this extra foundation and stuff to even things out, all you would need to do is use a face primer. I use Laura Mercier, and you can just kind of add it on the bottom, down here, here, here. Don't add it onto your eyelids. We're going to use something else for the eyelids. But this will help just kind of keep your makeup in place, let it stick, and not have it just kind of going all over the place as you sweat, you know what I'm saying? But go ahead, set your face. You do decide to put on foundation with a powder, and then we can start with the eyes next. For the eyes, I'm going to be using a eyeshadow primer, and the one that I'm going to be using is a NYX Eyeshadow Primer. I have barely used this one, so I don't know how good it is, but I'm just gonna put it straight onto my eyelid, like so, and then blend it out. When it comes to the eyes, which is what we're gonna be doing next, I'm gonna be using just a regular black shadow. You can use kind of a variety of different things. You can use liners, you can use shadows, you can use like creams and such, kind of like we did for Kiss, if you watched Kiss, yeah. But today I just wanted to use a shadow and just kind of keep it simple so that everything stays in place. So what I'm going to be doing is I have this KKW Shadows palette. I'm going to be using the black color that's on the very bottom and literally just put it all around like a circle. This is usually kind of a nightmare, and it's going to be a nightmare to take off, but it's going to be worth the results. So while they're going back and forth from LA to Phoenix, they do decide to rename themselves, and they're no longer the Spiders at that point. They rename themselves to NAZZ, N-A-Z-Z. But after naming themselves NAZZ, they start to realize that, wait, there's another band called NAZZ, and we can't call ourselves NAZZ. Hello. That could be an issue. and now they're, you know, big time musician. Also called Nas. Like, it's a good move that they decided to change it up. And that was when Alice Cooper was born. But before they did become Alice, they did decide to release a few songs under the name Nas before they did figure out that they couldn't use the name Nas. And they released a song called Wonder Who's Lovin' Her Now and Lay Down and Die Goodbye. Quite a name. When it came to their name change that they did do after the whole Nas thing, they decided, okay, we're gonna be Alice Cooper. They liked it because it was kind of like humorous in their eyes, and they were like, okay, we're gonna do something kind of different with it. And they wanted to have some sort of gimmick for the most part. And so their gimmick that they decided was just kind of dissect the movies that they liked the most. And one of the movies that they liked the most was a movie called Whatever Happened to Baby Jane. And in the movie, Betty Davis kind of wears a smeared makeup, and so they were like, okay, note taken on the smeared makeup. And then they also liked this movie called Barbarella, and in Barbarella, the lead actress kind of wore like a black sort of attire, kind of like black leather gloves, you know, that whole sort of vibe. And so just kind of looking at both of those, they decided to kind of make their move and go with kind of that black smeared makeup kind of vibe. And I think like that was honestly such a good move for them, you know. Same thing with Kiss. It's something that kind of gives this shock factor and vibe and alternate persona that just people latch onto and love the characterization of. I can argue the same thing goes for Lady Gaga. She does the same thing. So yeah, Lady Gaga, Elton John, Kiss, yeah, a lot of these people. The band for the most part stayed the same except for that one that I had mentioned that got switched out. And everyone was from Cortez High School, except for that one that got switched out. So I thought that was kind of a nice thing. You know, they were all from class. You know, they were all from class and just, you know, studied out and decided, hey, let's be a group. And they did that. So their success after these few songs didn't really come immediately. They ended up doing a show in Venice, California, and kind of tanked that show. And while they were there and tanked it, there was a guy in the audience by the name of Shep Gordon. And Shep saw them and was like, hey, I kind of want to introduce you guys to a basically producer that I'm aware of that I think you guys would kind of mesh well with and kind of do an audition for. And that producer was none other than Frank Zappa. Frank Zappa is someone that I haven't dug too much into, but I definitely loved for a while. Joe's Garage was one that I was like, oh my god, this is so fun. It wasn't very long. It was just enough for him to climb the drums. Anyways, so yeah, the guy told him like, oh yeah, be at his spot, meet him at 7, and you guys will have an audition. They were like, hell yeah, we're gonna go do this audition for Frank Zappa, and we're gonna freaking do our best. Well, little did they know that he didn't mean come at 7 a.m. They meant come at 7 p.m. And yet the guys showed up knocking on Frank's door, and Frank was like, yo, what in the world? What in the world? But kind of he did appreciate that they would come so early and just do what they did. And he signed them. He was like, yeah, I like you guys. I like what you guys have to offer. I appreciate you guys coming over here so early and waking me up. Y'all got something. Him being impressed and getting them signed, he signed them for a 3-record deal. Alice's official first album that was released in 1969, and the name of the album was Prettiest. Now, Alice Cooper kind of started to have a reputation of kind of having like a shock, kind of a shocking, shock rock kind of vibe. I don't know how to describe it any better than that. And that shock rock idea that kind of came into motion and into play came from a chicken incident, which I thought was crazy. So at one of their shows, which was at the Toronto Revival, Rock and Roll Revival, They had like, it sounds like they had this pillow on stage, and they decided to do some sort of like pillow fight, feather fight, I don't know, something of that nature. And somehow a live chicken made it onto the set, and he thought, okay, I'm gonna throw this chicken that made it onto my set into the audience in hopes that it flies away, because chickens fly, right? No. So he threw it, and he threw it into like the wheelchair department, I guess, of the stage, and the people who got a hold of the chicken kind of ripped it apart. It was not good. And the news and everybody was kind of like, oh my God, this chicken, it was there and it got ripped apart and it died, and oh my God. And Frank Zappa called him and was like, dude, like what the hell happened? Like what in the world happened at this show? And they were like, dude, like this is what happened, we didn't know, we thought, ah. And Frank was like, dude, this is good for your image because people are gonna wanna come and get lit at your events. So you know what, just say nothing, act like nothing, and just run with it. And that's what they did. They proceeded from there to kind of release their second album, and the second album, honestly, it did not do very good. It did not do very good at all. And they kind of were thinking to themselves like, I feel like LA is not understanding me. It is not understanding me. And so they ended up moving back to Michigan, and in Michigan is where they decided to just kind of keep doing what they're doing, because they felt like people in Michigan understood them a little bit better than those in LA, which I totally could see. For the third album's name was Love It to Death. The single I'm 18 released in 1970 and went to the number 21 spot on the Billboard Hot 100 charts. And from there, Warner ended up buying out their contract, and they decided to re-release these projects to give it a bigger audience. And with that selling of the contract to Warner, the album ended up going to number 35 on the charts, and it would be one of 11 albums that would hit the charts. Their shows decided to kind of get a little bit more on the crazy side. They would have electric chairs in their shows. They would have like fake goth fights, is how they would kind of quote it. They would do a lot of random stuff from the way that it sounds on these shows. They went on to release another album called The Killer, which was released in 1971, and it had a few successful songs on there. And then we lead into School's Out. School's Out was by far probably one of their larger songs that they had. This song went to the top 10 in the US Billboard Hot 100 charts, reaching number 1 in the UK and number 2 in the United States. The song sold over 1 million copies and did really a great job. It really did a great job. It's one of those songs that I feel like everybody knows. If you don't know it, you should know it. And I know for me, it was one of those songs that I absolutely loved growing up as a kid, especially with Guitar Hero. It was on Guitar Hero, and I remember like, yeah, this song is great. I have it on my iPod, and I remember like every time school would finish and we'd be done for the summer, I would be so corny and go into the bus and be like, I'm gonna play this song. Yeah, and I would play the song and just jam till my heart was content, because school would be out. Even I think, honestly, my last song that I heard when I finished senior year of high school, I was like, I'm gonna play this song. A little lame, it is what it is, but that was my little contribution. It doesn't seem like they have a music video. I didn't see a music video that was up for them. It was just kind of like a performance video that they had, and he had this makeup on, and in a lot of different stage performances he did have this makeup on, and so I thought, hey, let's recreate it and see what we can kind of do with this Alice Cooper look. When it comes to who created this makeup look, it's hard to figure it out. There's a lot of people that you could probably say either helped him along the way create this look. I don't know if he directly created this look, but I did see that there is a guy by the name of Cleve Hall, and he did a lot of props and makeup for Kiss, Alice Cooper, and more in the industry. So he may have been the one who did this look. I don't know, but hopefully we can find out, and I can let you guys know down below. But I hope you guys enjoyed this look. I had a fun time creating it. It's gonna be a pain to take off. But this is basically it. Like I said, if you do not have makeup underneath, just put a little bit of the face primer around to make sure that all of this sticks. If you do decide to use a cream-based paint, I would just set everything in place with a powder on top. But if you wanted to just go with the powder look, this looks pretty much identical. It doesn't look as wet per se as Alice's does in some of these looks, but for me, I'm not mad at it. Just added a little bit of squigglies on the bottom and on the top with Haus Labs' eyeliner pins. I have the one that is just the regular eyeliner that they have, and then I have the mini one as well. Honestly, I prefer the larger one. It's a little bit easier for me to use, but it's up to your discretion to see which ones you want to use. When it comes to lips, he has a natural lip, so I just put just regular, kind of like a pinkish tone, but of course it's up to your discretion and what you guys want to use. But anyways, I hope you guys had fun. Welcome back to Music Video Makeup Monday, and we'll be back soon with another video for you guys. Thank you guys again for tuning in, and if you guys want to see, of course, more content like this, please hit that subscribe button. Let me know who I should do in the comments down below, and I'll see you guys next time. See ya!